Moving on to a new level of offerings. Today we are going to be looking at a little bit of the trespass offerings. Leviticus 1 and 5. If anyone sins in that he is sworn to testify and has knowledge of the matter, either by seeing or hearing of it, but fails to report it, he shall bear his iniquity and willfulness. So we have somebody here who is being questioned. Either it's like a court case or by an officer or maybe a person of authority, and they have sworn that they are going to tell the truth or swear that what they say is true. And the vast majority of it, it could be completely true. They could have say everything true, but they're omitting things. This is the lying by omission, leaving details out to paint a different picture, a picture that might be more convenient for the person or the group that they are involved with. We often see politicians doing this, news anchors, all kinds of individuals. And it's not a good thing. This is not something that God is a fan of. Leviticus 5 and 2. Or if anyone touches an unclean thing, whether the carcass of an unclean wild beast, or of an unclean domestic animal, or of unclean creepy thing that multiply prolifically, even if he is unaware of it, and he has become unclean, he is guilty. 5 and 3. Or if he touches human uncleanness, of whatever kind the uncleanness may be, with which he becomes defiled, and he is unaware of it. When he does know it, then he shall be guilty. There are a lot of sections in the Bible about this whole clean and unclean thing. To be clean is to allow someone the freedom to interact with the Lord in the offerings, the ability to give an offering to the Lord, to interact with other people. It's just a good thing to be in a state of being clean, washed, purified. We're going to see sections about the ritualistic cleaning process to take someone from being unclean and to clean them up. In this section in particular, we're looking at some of the items that one can be exposed to that will defile them, to make them unclean. First, we have the touching of a carcass, so the dead body of. We got the wild beast, the domestic animal, and the creepy thing. And it specifies the unclean variety of them. So we're going to get into what animals are clean and which ones are unclean later on. But to start off, we have touching the carcass. Even if the person is unaware of it, they brushed up against this animal or whatever that was like a dead body, or they were poking around with a stick and then realized what it was, then they would be defiled. The next one is touching an unclean human. This is going to be expanded upon later to a much greater degree of what type of things. Some of them are like leprosy or menstruation. There's some things that are labeled as unclean. And whether the person knows it or not, if they touch that person, they are going to be defiled. Leviticus 5 and 4. Or if anyone unthinkingly swears he will do something, whether to do evil or good, whatever it may be, that a man shall pronounce rashly, taking an oath. Then, when he becomes aware of it, he shall be guilty in either of these. What we have described here is a vow. That is somebody making an oath that they are going to do such and such or such a thing. And often these backfire tremendously. The person could make a vow and there's no way for them to actually complete it, or they make a vow that appears to do one thing, but the result is the reverse and it backfires tremendously. So this is the idea of like a rash vow, one that is not well thought out and planned, in that it could do more damage than intended. We're going to see some examples later on in the Old Testament of some vows that get made that really didn't turn out as intended and are just sad and depressing and just absolutely horrid. So it's probably better just not to make vows. Leviticus 5:5. When a man is guilty in one of these, he shall confess the sin he has committed. 5:6. He shall bring his guilt or trespass offering to the Lord for the sin which he has committed, a female from the flock, a lamb or a goat for a sin offering, and the priest shall make atonement for his sin. All the examples we've seen above, the man lying by omission, the one touching the unclean, and the one making the vow, all have sinned. And in order to fix the sin situation, a sacrifice is needed. And that's what's being described here. We have a sin offering. And we saw previously in the last chapter how the sin offering was to be completed with the separating of the fat of the animal and the entrails and the fire, and how that was all to be done. Leviticus 5:7. But if he cannot afford a lamb, then he shall bring for his guilt offering to the Lord 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. So if the man is unable to afford the lamb or the goat, we have a substitution. And the interesting thing about the substitution is that it is 2 of these birds. So the one is the sin offering and the other is a burnt offering. So we have the sin offering that deals with the sin that was committed, the lying by omission, the touching the unclean, whatever. But then the second one is a burnt offering. That's an offering of giving thanks to the Lord. So we kind of have that idea of the one bird pays for the sin and the other one is thanking the Lord for his mercy and his grace in order to escape the judgment, and that he provided a method for them to be able to get squared away with the Lord, to pay for their sin, and almost like a fellowship or a communion or rebuilding that relationship with the Lord. Even though they couldn't afford the proper sacrifice, a different sacrifice is provided, showing the mercy of God. Leviticus 5:8. He shall bring them to the priest, who shall offer the one for the sin offering first, and wring its head from its neck, but shall not sever it. 5:9. And he shall sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering on the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood shall be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. 5:10. And he shall prepare the second bird for a burnt offering according to the ordinance, and the priest shall make atonement for him for his sin which he has committed, and he shall be forgiven. It's great to see an alternative offering for those who are less fortunate and less wealthy. For I imagine these sin offerings happen all the time, for it is really easy to sin. Leviticus 5:11. But if the offender cannot afford to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, then he shall bring for his offering the 10th part of an ephah of fine flour for a sin offering. He shall put no oil or frankincense on it, for it is a sin offering. 5:12. He shall bring it to the priest, who shall take a handful of it as a memorial portion and burn it on the altar, on the offerings made by fire to the Lord. It is a sin offering. 5:13. Thus the priest shall make atonement for him for the sin that he has committed in any of these, and he shall be forgiven. And the remainder shall be for the priest as a cereal offering. So here we go, 3-tier system. And if the person is unable to afford the lamb or the goat, or the young turtle dove, or the pigeons. I think I have those two backwards, young pigeons and turtle doves. We have this offering of a grain, a fine flour, to be presented as a sin offering. The epaph, looking it up here, it's about 22 liters or 3/5 of a bushel. That's a full epaph, and the person who committed the sin and is doing this offering, this grain offering as a sin offering, is 1/10 of that. So like 2 liters of grain, or 0.06 bushels. No idea what that is. I think even in America, the land of the free, the land of the brave, they have 2-liter pop bottles. So imagine a 2-liter pop bottle and a little bit more than that, and it's filled with grain or fine flour. And that is going to be used as this sin offering. So not a terrible amount. I think the more interesting thing is that we have an offering for a sin offering that doesn't require the death of an animal. That to me seems kind of interesting, but it might be a limited application due to this particular use of sin. But we'll see more later on with how some of these offerings work out. And I just love how God provides opportunities for the less fortunate. I think it's wonderful that He is inclusive in that manner and is always looking out for the little guy. Leviticus 5:14. And the Lord said to Moses, 5:15, if anyone commits a breach of faith and sins unwittingly in the holy things of the Lord, he shall bring his trespass or guilt offering to the Lord, a ram without blemish out of the flock, valued by you in shekels of silver. That is the shekel of the sanctuary for a trespass or guilt offering. 5:16. And he shall make restitution for what he has done amiss in the holy thing, and shall add a fifth to it, and give it to the priest. And the priest shall make atonement for him with the ram of the trespass or guilt offering, and he shall be forgiven. So we have here somebody that has committed a breach of faith and sins unwittingly. So this could be a couple of different things. It could be somebody miscounted when they were doing their first fruits to determine the amount to be given to the Lord, or maybe they thought an animal gave birth before and they didn't offer the firstborn to the Lord, or some other combination of events taking place that they screwed up. They didn't really intend to do it, but at the end of the day, they screwed up, and they're going to have to pay the price for it. So we see an offering here of a trespass or guilt offering, being this ram without blemish. Or if they don't want to do the ram, they can pay in silver the amount of shekels that the ram would be worth. So that fixes the first portion of this. This gets rid of the guilt of kind of screwing up and messing up, but it hasn't resolved the issue of what is owed to the Lord. And we see that in the next line with the reference to restitution. So in the restitution, we see that there's a penalty of a fifth of the value, and this needs to be given over. A fifth is 20%. So if they had to give, let's say, 1,000 units of something, they would have to give 1,200, 20% more. After the priest receives the restitution, he's able to perform this sacrifice for the guilt offering with the ram, and there we go. All is good. Leviticus 5:17. If anyone sins and does any of the things the Lord has forbidden, though he was not aware of it, yet he is guilty and shall bear his iniquity. Truly, this is a terrifying verse, and its ramifications are very intense. So ignorance of the law is not protection from the law. Leviticus 5:18, he shall bring to the priest a ram without blemish out of the flock, estimated by you to the amount of the trespass, for a guilt or trespass offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him for the error which he committed unknowingly, and he shall be forgiven. 5:19, if it is a trespass or guilt offering, he is certainly guilty before the Lord. So this ram here, this is what we saw previously a couple sentences ago, that to give that offering, to bring that ram in. And then we have the final line, 5:19, and that's just kind of doubling down on what we previously discussed, with the idea that even if you don't know and you commit the sin, you're still guilty of it. Guilty before the Lord.